All right, so my name is Bryan Marazzi. I work for Sikorsky Aircraft up in Stratford, Connecticut. Sikorsky, we build helicopters, a different range of sizes and weight classes for both commercial and military customers. I'm an engineer by education, and but I've seen my career kind of transition over time to enter into a different type of realm where, I think a lot of kids, especially in high school and stuff, that I was unaware of, into the strategic planning realm. And I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of background about how I went from being an engineer, my interest in STEM over the years, and then kind of got to where I am today. Before I begin, I just want to say that I appreciate everything that you guys are doing on the phone. My dad was a high school teacher, phys ed teacher for 35 years. And I know taking this extra time that you're spending to help your students out means a lot to those of us that, we're interested in science, and trying to translate, something out of a textbook into real life is a big piece. And as we go through this today, please, ask me any questions that you have. And at the same time, if there's things that as we move through this, maybe I could either go too quickly about, or you want to circle back on, please let me know, and we'll go from there. This GIF over here on the right is actually, it's called the SB-1. It's currently an experimental helicopter that is being flight tested down in our West Palm Beach Flight Test Center. It's a pretty large aircraft. It's meant to replace the Black Hawk that Sikorsky is well known for. I believe this is, you guys I think are mostly out of Hampton Roads or out of Norfolk area. Probably see the Coast Guard Jayhawks that fly around all the time. And roughly the big deal with this aircraft is the fact that it goes roughly 100 knots faster than a traditional helicopter would, because of the coaxial rotors in this pusher prop. And we'll talk a little bit about the technology and how that plays into my job now as we go through this. So just kind of like, where did this all begin for me? A little bit of background. My career started with Legos. Between playing with Legos as a kid, that was where I got interested in STEM and building things. And that translated over into an interest in engineering, math and science. The picture over here on the right is I had the opportunity to take a Sikorsky S-76 aircraft from Connecticut down to Baltimore for a meeting that we were having. And that was a pretty unique experience that most likely I'll never get to experience again, but still working for a helicopter company, it was pretty cool to actually get to sit in and take a flight, on something that, is not something that everybody gets to do. But those are like the little nuggets that a lot of folks in engineering science, especially in aerospace, get to feel and get to take part in, that are unique opportunities that kids should recognize that are out there. To touch a little bit about where I started, and probably just to give everybody a mindset of, as they're talking to high school students about aerospace in general and how STEM can translate. I use this picture here on the left, right? An engineering degree is the starting point, and the different experiences that you develop as you move through your career are gonna put you on some part of this cone, if you will. And depending on where you end up, you're going to find things that you like and things that you don't like. And then as you progress through your career, there's all different points that you could end up at. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of those to give people kind of a orientation. I know you have a lot of different guest speakers coming in, but wanted to kind of summarize, at least from my perspective, where within aerospace and within STEM curriculum, people can expect to, follow their interests, or also realize where maybe certain things may not be of interest to them. But starting down here, over here on the right, what I think people think of as a traditional engineer, those are tech fellows, chief engineers, model engineers. Those are people that are really detail oriented, analytical mindset. Most initial engineering jobs put you on that track by default, and it takes someone who develops a real deep understanding and technical expertise in specific fields to be successful in that. And, really you gain your knowledge through experience and through specialty training. And we'll talk a little bit about those things. The next one is manufacturing testing, customer support. So when I've talked to students in the past in similar forums, a lot of people start with, they like to work with their hands. They like the tactile idea of being an engineer or working in STEM. And for those folks, working in manufacturing, test, or even going out in the field, as we would say, you're out and going out and supporting actual customers or working on aircraft directly, those are folks that really probably are maybe a little schedule oriented, really like programs and working to a schedule and being organized. At the same time, those are people that are just kind of like, hey, let's go try something, especially in the test field where you don't always know what the outcome is. If you have a mindset where you are okay with failure, that's a really unique opportunity, a different type of job. Moving on to the next type of job, program management. Those are the folks that right now, at least at Lockheed, there's a huge demand for folks that are program managers. When we interface with our customers a lot, it's program manager to program manager. And by that, I mean, if we're working with the Army, the Navy, Air Force, there's always someone on the other side of the table that we're working with and collaborating with, kind of in a partnership arrangement with, that's how we view our customers, right? So really they're leading cross-functional teams and understanding who does what and what those tasks are that need to get done and in what time frame in order for a project to be successful. And they talk about those things kind of in conjunction with a number of different specialty items, but at the end of the day, they're the ones that own the program from start to finish, and they have to, they have to be pretty committed to moving through that. Finally, kind of where I've ended up at this point in my career, I'm probably in this mid-career area here, is in kind of the sales, business development strategy role, because aerospace is very technically oriented. The customers have very unique needs and demands. A lot of times you need that technical expertise to go into a customer, understand their problem, and then provide them with a solution, whether it's a helicopter, a plane, a boat, whatever. They need to be able to talk in a way that really focuses on the values that the customer needs or the capabilities, and then translating that back into building something that will go and meet those needs. So it's definitely a different mindset. You got to also have a better understanding of the market and the industry. So who are you competing with? Who else is your customer talking to? What is your customer actually doing with the helicopter? For example, we have aircraft that go and do the firefighting in California right now. That same aircraft is an aircraft that will shuttle, business VIPs or even do EMS evacuations, right, from hospitals. So you're just trying to help understand what a customer needs and translating that back into a technical solution. At the same time, this is where a lot of times folks in STEM fields will focus on math and will miss out on the need for clear communication as well as those soft skills. And this is a job that kind of slants more towards those soft skills. I'll talk about that. Okay. Right now, this is just kind of a highlight of my career so far. So for school, I went to UConn from 2005 to 2009, mechanical engineering background with a minor in math. I then progressed and started working at GE Aviation up in Lynn, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. They actually paid for my master's degree at Boston University. I got a master's in manufacturing engineering because at that time it was an interest of mine. I didn't know if I was going to go more of a business route or stay in engineering. This manufacturing degree that they offered was a kind of a hybrid approach to figuring that out, and it was a good opportunity for me to go do that. I started off in what they call the engineering development program, so they helped pay for my master's degree. Like I said, we did rotation, so it gave me a really big breadth of opportunities to understand what I wanted to do. Similar to that picture of the funnel, I did 6 month stints in manufacturing engineering, 6 months in design, 6 months in systems engineering, and it gave me an opportunity to experience all those so that I knew what my first job outside that program was going to be, and I moved into a design engineering role. From that, I moved into what was called engineering operations. And I was actually, I call it a black belt, where we are using Six Sigma and Lean tools. And at the end of the day, it was kind of a gateway for me because it brought me to things that I never thought of as an engineer at that point in time. And then from there, I advanced into the advanced programs team. So in advanced programs, we talk about things that are truly just, pieces of paper and ideas, and coming up with the very beginning of, at that time, like jet engine design, and then seeing that through to actually building something, taking it through the manufacturing process, and then testing it and seeing how it works. So that was an excellent opportunity for me to see kind of things from a clean sheet of paper to actually seeing my parts that I was designing built, and then seeing them, assembled and actually run the test. So that was cool. That experience that I worked on in advanced programs helped me make a move. My wife and I both are from Connecticut, and living up in Boston, we knew we wanted to make a change. So we actually moved back down. I was lucky enough to get a job here at Sikorsky. At that time, I went into the competitive intelligence world. So that's a different type of job where I use my technical background, but really supported the sales team. When we go into these competitions, a lot of times the customers will define certain requirements, and the competitive intelligence person has to essentially act as, a spy, if you will, right? Trying to figure out what the competitor is going to offer, how much they're going to charge, what is the performance requirements, and trying to use, it's kind of like a multivariable equation. You don't have all of the answers. You don't have all the inputs. A lot of times you don't have enough inputs to solve the equation. You got to guess, right, based on experience. But it's a really interesting role. Sometimes it can be good. Sometimes it could be bad, right? If you win, everybody loves you. If you lose, nobody wants to talk to you again. So it's a different type of job. Right now I'm working in strategic planning and also focused in product strategy. So that's where I'm going to focus on the next couple of charts. Oh, the only other thing that I want to bring up, I thinking back to high school, what I probably didn't know that would have helped, garner some additional interest was just working in aerospace, especially for the companies like GE and Lockheed, because of their global presence and the size of them. They really opened up kind of the world to me, both traveling across the US, seeing different things, whether I had to go see a casting facility in Ohio, or going up to New Hampshire to go see some stuff. Or, one of the cooler opportunities I had was I got to go out to a naval air station in California where we were working on the F-18 engine and getting to see those guys fly around with our product on. So some really unique opportunities. The other opportunity was, I never traveled internationally, but got to have some really unique trips to go see different areas. We had a site in Munich, Germany, that we went to Munich, and we actually interfaced with all of our other global sites. So we had folks from the UK, from Poland, from Italy, and from Turkey all meeting. And me having to run that meeting was a totally different skill set than I ever had to do, which is trying to understand, that just different cultures, right? Just different cultures, but at the end of the day, we're all engineers. We're all kind of trying to solve the same problem. So we speak a common language, but you're also trying to manage different expectations. I got to go to Turkey, which Turkey was a lot different when I went there about 5 years ago than it is now. But that was a unique experience just to see a different part of the world than I never expected. And then finally got to go for a week to Bangalore in India, which was beautiful. But it was definitely a unique experience that I don't think I would have had I not been working kind of in aerospace and for the companies that I was. So, that was something that I thought, as a high school student, I never really wrapped my head around. You don't really think of that type of thing. All right, kind of going a little bit into the skills that I use in my day-to-day. I would say that the biggest piece of where you start and where you end up, it requires you to continue to learn, because the skills that you use at the beginning most likely are going to be very different from the skills you learn, or the skills you need as you move through your career. At the beginning, it was very analytical, using stress analysis tools like ANSYS or MATLAB, or writing code in Python to try to just do the fine tuning of specific detailed design work that is just kind of the bread and butter of an engineer. To then moving into kind of a career role in systems engineering, where you start to learn how to use the different functions. So you know, as a systems engineer, you're putting together the program schedule, building a team and leading a team to work on very complicated problems that need specific subject matter experts, and you bring those people to the same table and you need them to collaborate. And that's a big piece of this, especially within engineering and within, you know, STEM as a whole. The problems are just too hard to solve by yourself. And today, you know, where I've gotten to is much more of a business and market focused area of kind of the STEM career field. It depends on internal and external communications a lot. So whether we're interfacing with internal customers like the other departments, such as like finance, operations, supply chain, trying to convey to them why we need to do something and why we need to change is a big piece of what that means. And a lot of times you have to bring the data to the table. So I would say that, you know, my job or my career has really evolved from, you know, being a problem solver to a problem finder, which is a little, I don't know, funny, but you know, you get smart enough to realize you gotta find those problems and go figure them out. Sometimes not everybody's gonna show up and hand you a homework assignment, right? So, you know, my current job, strategic planning and product strategy. I don't know if you guys like The Office or not, but you know, PowerPoint. I've had to do PowerPoint like crazy, you know, with 60 revisions of a single PowerPoint briefing, because the way that we articulate and communicate is so important because of how complicated some of these problems are. And it takes a lot of fine tuning. But at the end of the day, communication is just as important sometimes as the technical answer, because people do not understand things when they're too complicated because of the bite-sized engagements you might have with them. Getting a little bit more into the details on strategic planning, it's all about the data. So we receive data from a large number of sources. So we talk about market data. You know, we look at different economic trends, different analyses, and we do a lot of forecasts. We talk, like, for example, oil and gas prices, the rapid fluctuations we saw at in the beginning of the year, January through April and May, with respect to the COVID-19 impact, but also there was some other global things going on between Russia and Saudi Arabia that had a huge impact on our business. And we needed to tell our leadership team in advance of what we expected to happen. And we were the ones providing that analysis. Our customers, you know, our customers have certain trends with what they're going to do with aircrafts. And a lot of times we go in and we talk to them, and then we come back and we actually will model out how they're using our aircraft so we can better refine the platform, understand where there might be some hidden value in those systems. And finally, you know, product data is really around what are our competitors doing, and two, how do we make investment decisions on what to do to those products to make them better, to just in general just make them more applicable to the roles they're playing. The image over here on the left is actually every aircraft we have in the commercial field today, we track live, and we know where they are globally. And we take all that data and we're able to understand, when does somebody need a spare part? When does somebody have a potential issue? And we're able to short circuit the long time it historically would take to go from an aircraft having an issue to getting a spare part to then getting that aircraft back up and flying. And that's a huge way how you're able to take data in, process it, and take a meaningful action out of it. That's a big part of STEM today. This is a little bit of a deep dive, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I wanted to highlight that people think a lot about the real nitty gritty, I think, math and science of engineering all the time. And that's what they think of when they think of STEM. But I think some of the simpler mathematics, you know, statistic modeling, and just understanding, you know, how to look at data, how to analyze it, how to make a story out of it, is really where I've seen my job morph over time, or my career move towards. So, looking at kind of correlation factors and just doing some simple analysis can really yield some meaningful results as far as what you're supposed to take away from it. Like, I never understood from doing an experiment in a lab in a high school class why we were doing multiple test points and trying to understand what the point of looking at variation was, until then putting it down and trying to understand, why does the decline in oil prices translate into us selling fewer helicopters, right? So it's a different mindset, but it's taking the tools that you learn in high school and in college, but applying them in a different way. And that's what's very versatile about engineering and STEM. This is just a little bit of another level, right? Those correlations that I showed on the previous chart. This is kind of a high level summary, but what we were seeing was, we could see that overall our historical data, which is these blue bars, and the major indicator, which was our kind of oil prices, as these prices were dropping, so were sales overall. And then where we were at this point in time, we were trying to make a case that we anticipated further growth. This was before COVID, so things have changed. But essentially we were pointing towards, hey, we got to make some investments, we got to make some moves, because there's going to be this green opportunity out here in the 2020s. And we did all this, using statistical analysis, taking different data points, talking to customers, and really looking at a very diverse data set and putting a story together that helps kind of bring people along with you. The other thing that I really enjoy doing right now is what we call like our product strategy. And in this chart, what I'm showing is kind of the product life cycle. People don't always realize where different things are in the market from a product life cycle perspective. And some of this stuff is kind of subjective, right? But there's really 4 main phases that we look at in product strategy. There's an introduction phase, a growth phase, a maturity phase, and a decline phase. I just tried to show some examples of what we would, classify. Electric cars right now, Tesla, even the GM model and stuff, right? Those are now being introduced, and they're creating a demand signal. And most likely at some point in time in the next, 5-10 years, they're going to hit a tipping point where they're going to start to gain significant market share. So something that people think of, like cloud and, cutting the cord and everything like that, that growth that you're seeing between Netflix and all of the streaming services, that they're in this growth phase right now, where they are capitalizing on success and overtaking the historical products, such as cable and other things. And then finally, when you think about cell phones and the iPhone and stuff, they're kind of at a point where they're mature. I don't know if anybody's seen like the latest news, right? They have the iPhone 12 out, and people are like, why would I need to buy an iPhone 12? What am I getting? That they're kind of at this point where they just need to sustain. They just need to keep making products, keep people interested. But it's at the highest point it could probably be. And they're going to slowly, just milk that as long as they can. And then on the other end, as a product that starts to enter this decline phase, talk about, like malls or different retail establishments that are being superseded by, the growth in e-commerce. They're moving into this harvest segment, and they're in decline. And there's different strategies essentially you have to take depending on which of these 4 areas of the product's life cycle you have to do. And I right now have projects in pretty much every category of these 4, just based on the Sikorsky product portfolio alone. So it's different. You're using different types of data. You're doing different types of analysis. Sometimes I'm heavily leveraging my engineering background in the conversations I'm having with folks. Other times I am learning new business acumen, especially when we start to talk to our finance colleagues and really learning about, how to make investment decisions. But it's very different. It's very diverse from what I expected it to be. I think, there's a couple of little videos or 2 examples I would want to just show. The first one is, this is the smaller of the 2 aircraft that we're making right now. So this is the Raider X2. So similar to the one that was on the front cover. Both these aircraft are going after future vertical lift, which is the Army's major aviation initiatives. So they'll replace two of the legacy aircraft that are out there, both the Black Hawk and then a small portion of the Apache fleet. And it's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort to craft the strategies around those investments, starting back at least 10 to 15 years ago. There's a small group of folks at Sikorsky that's called our innovations team. It's similar to what is more widely known as like a skunk works type of organization. They work quick, they're small, and they're highly motivated folks. And it's pretty impressive with what they come out of. And there's always new technologies and new ideas that we talk to them about what it is that they want to work on. We go off, we do some market analysis, we say yes, no, maybe. And then, we start a whole process around what is it going to take to bring that product to market. On the right-hand side is a program that I've been working with a lot. The S-92, it's a large commercial helicopter. There's roughly 300 of them out there, and they fly to offshore oil rigs and bring in passengers back and forth. So if you've ever seen the movie Deepwater Horizon, I think that's right. The oil rig that had the accident off the Gulf Coast, the aircraft that they're flying on is an S-92. It's the mainstay of flying those people back and forth. And it's got the best safety record of any commercial helicopter in the history of rotorcraft. So it's a really important program to Sikorsky. And we were working on kind of what is the future of that platform. And we did a lot of work talking to customers down in the Gulf, talking to customers in the UK and Canada, where everybody's a little bit different, right? And we have to make decisions based on the data that we have and understanding what, at the end of the day, our customers are going to want. And there's actually a link to a video down here. I won't play it right now, but it was featured on Mega Machines. And it's pretty cool video for you guys to show some students. But this job is very different than what I expected. What I would say, is STEM gives you that basic foundation and different skill sets. So I think, even from the previous speaker, you can take it in a lot of different ways, and it's up to you with how you want to go about it. It's hard, but it pays off. I've been very fortunate in the roles that I've had and the companies that I work for, that they're pretty stable. Things go up and down, but essentially, having a STEM background always provides you with an opportunity, I would say. And finally, before we get on the call, we were talking about some of just the unique things that are starting to show up. This convergence of autonomy, of electrification. These technologies that have been in development for the last 20 years are really going to enable some dramatic changes to the way we think about things. I have a 6-month-old and I have a 2.5-year-old, and I jokingly said to my wife the other day, I wonder if our girls will ever even have to drive, have to get a driver's license, right? Because I think what Jang was talking about was automation. You don't need, maybe the way that we think about driving today is going to change so much. They don't need to worry about that. So it's an exciting field. It's different than a lot of people, I think, realize. And depending on what you're looking at and what you're interested in doing, there's probably something there for you, would be my main message to take back to the students. But that's what I had.
Awesome, thank you. A couple of quick questions. First one is, in terms of, so you had that really cool career path, little graphic thing that you did. Would you say that is generally applicable to engineering careers, like widely speaking?
Oh yeah, I think so. Okay. You mean this one, right? The funnel?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, there's always there's like a starting point, right, that everybody has. Whether you want to be in aerospace, you want to be in automotive, you want to be, in computer science, right? Depends on wherever you want to start. But a lot of those skills that you develop starting with your degree and that skill set are easily translatable into a kind of a wide array of different opportunities that are out there. But until you kind of get into it, it's hard to understand where it could go. I know like my dad, like I said, as a teacher for 30 years, he would ask me what I do at work, and it was really hard to explain to him what I do at work, right? So I think that's the challenge of until you get into it, it's hard.
I think this is fascinating because we have speakers who are from all different fields and different points in their like career. But this is really interesting, I think, especially in terms of like, how people think and which directions they go. And I guess in so many ways, I've never thought about like engineering careers in this way. So I'm super excited about it.
Good.
And then, what was I going to say? So I know that there's a lot of other sort of groups at Lockheed Martin. Do you work with other strategic, other strategic planning groups in terms of like?
Yeah, so within, so I work for Sikorsky. Sikorsky works for, there's another level above us, and that's the Rotary and Mission Systems group. So they there's like 4 or 5 other units within our business. And then we also work a lot with the ALM aeronautics team, which is out of Fort Worth, Palmdale, and Marietta, because, we make rotorcraft, but we still make aircraft. They make fighter jets and large, transports, but a lot of the problems, we face similar types of problems that are not always translatable to the things that we work with, even within our smaller business unit. So yeah, we do talk to those folks. Probably not as regularly as we want to, but we have connections, and that's how we talk to each other, because we have to translate a lot of times.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I have time for 2 more questions. So when you were talking about the, how tracking your current aircraft that are, and, keeping track of sort of like, maintenance and all of that, do you use that data ever for sort of like product improvement? Yeah,
like on the program that I was talking about, the S92 program. Yeah, we quite a bit use it. A lot of times, from a very tactical level, we want to see what parts are failing the fastest, right? And make improvements at a very low level. And then secondly, we actually take that information so we know how far the aircraft are flying, and we can figure out, okay, how far do our competitor aircraft fly? So how much of that market, if you will, can they not get to? And then, so like it's a very tricky problem, but the data we can use the data a lot of different ways. And like, it's like kind of just painting a story with the data. It helps you fill in some blanks.
Awesome. And then one last question, and this is a personal question for both my Molly and myself, because we live in the DC metro area. So they are currently flying helicopters really low in the DC area to get background radiation measurements for the inauguration at some point. I guess we were wondering if you knew anything about that technology.
No, not specifically, right? Okay. But I know what they're flying, right? Yeah, I've seen them flying around and stuff, and yeah, they have to fly that low because of Reagan. So they fly very low, and they fly like right along the river, right? Are those the ones you're talking about, or are they different?
Oh no, they're grid. It's grid pattern over the entire city. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't know.
Okay, I didn't know if you happen to. Yeah, they have a grid set up to take baseline measurements.
That's good. They told you about it. That's good.
I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of low flying helicopters. So right. I feel like it's, I assume it's probably like, down Hampton Roads, we have a lot of just aircraft around hanging out. Yeah. Awesome. Those are all the questions we have. Thank you so much for presenting. And I'll be honest, this is a totally different take on engineering than I've seen previously, but I'm so excited about this presentation.
Good. Appreciate it. Yeah. And if anything else, let me know, and happy to come back, or people have questions or want to reach out direct. feel free.
Yeah, and we certainly get requests for speakers. Sometimes teachers just want to connect with someone to explain something to them so they can explain it better to their students. So we'll absolutely be in touch if any of that comes up or we have additional questions from this.